new normal. These are the tools we are going to be using in trying to get ourselves organized. And part and parcel of all gathering will involve troubleshooting, you know, and as we master it, I believe we are going to be a lot more effective. We're going to have this recorded, and then we're going to make it available for those who cannot join us live on this moment. We had a brief message from the Archbishop. It's not got here to me yet. So what I'll do is there's another thank you message from Mrs. Ajiman who put it at the very late end. So I'll list you, your namesake, our Honorable Mrs. Ajiman has sent us a thank you message. We'll share that at the very tail end of it. But just to, before I hand it over to Peter to just jump in, is for all those who are listening now to understand that, look, we don't really have a blueprint. I mean, just like many are saying that there is really no blueprint for dealing with the pandemic. But we know that we are a brotherhood. And when we have a crisis, we create a space for us to come together, and how we use it will really determine, as Peter rightly put it, you know, the kind of life we'll live after this. You know, we are making choices now. And if we seek to do so collectively, rather than trying to, you know, each one for himself, because this thing doesn't work this way. I mean, the best way to get through this is to collaborate. And I'm hoping that creating such opportunities will give us a chance to put our heads together and find some solution. It will start with a lot of chat and talk, but the intention is to exchange ideas, to get some feedback, and use that to move to the next phase. Okay, so without much ado, I'm going to hand over to Peter. I keep saying Peter needs no introduction, but every now and then I have to introduce him. I just introduce him as the one who broke one of my brother's sports record on campus. I used to hold it. I don't know. I know you are an all-round athlete, but you put the athlete aside for now. But Peter is the managing director for Morgan Stanley, and I've had the pleasure of just getting to know him whilst we met here in the US. So Peter really twisted a couple of arms, including mine, to get this going, because he saw value in coming together and putting his very rich experience and insight to the disposal of the APSU Brotherhood. So Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Albert. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to, I guess, this session. First of all, let me take the opportunity to apologize for the late start. We obviously try to plan ahead, but we live in unprecedented time, and we're all trying new technologies. For me, this is the first time I'm doing this, a combination of Zoom and then webinar. So I guess first thing is disclaimer, help us. If things are not going well, we'll take constructive criticisms, and we'll try to improve on it going forward. But honestly, this is just for all of us. It's not, we're doing this from the heart of, from the bottom of our heart, just to help each other, given the fact that we live in an unprecedented situation right now. Before I introduced our distinguished panel, I thought it would be good to set a little bit of context in terms of what we're seeing right now and the environment itself. Obviously, we've heard around, we are all in this COVID-19 together. Most of us are, not everybody, but some of us are locked at home. I'm sure not everybody is locked at home. Some people are, regardless of where we are, have to go to work. But to think about it, this is the first time most of our kids are probably going through something like this. Some of us are probably old enough, have gray hair to go through global financial crisis and 9/11 and the rest. But for a lot of our kids, this is the first time they're going through this. And for most of us, what we're going through right now is probably more unprecedented than anything else we've been through. I was reading an article this morning with some of the CEOs, and I was reading something that Ken Chenault, who's the former CEO of American Express, said, which is actually, when you think about what this presents, this is almost like 9/11 global financial crisis combined ×3. That is what we're going through. And indeed, you see that because nowhere we've seen more than 30 million in the United States, people unemployed just within 6 weeks. Nowhere we've seen where in the UK, 1 million people have applied for unemployment benefits within just 1 week. And so this is real. And I think for us, is about how do we continue to balance being able to survive as well as really planning ahead. Because one is around survival, which we're going to talk about, but the question is, can you also plan ahead in situations like this? And just to finish off, before I introduce the panel, I was reading two people that I won't put into the same category, but I'll quote them. One was Mike Tyson, and I was reading what he said, which, and I quote, he says, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? So that was Mike Tyson saying that. And then on the flip side, I looked at General Eisenhower, who was 34th president of the United States. That's why I said I won't put them together. But at the same time, if I quote him, what he says was, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So clearly we're going to go through this, but plans are worthless, but planning is everything, okay? And this captures everything that we're going to go through. So I'm sure the things on your mind that we will discuss today, some of you are thinking, where's my next paycheck coming? Some of you are thinking job security. Some people are thinking, I have some savings. How long is it going to last? Some of you are thinking, can I reduce my expenses? And some people are thinking, with the little that I have, where can I invest so that I can grow it as much as possible without losing it, all right? So I'm sure there's a few things on everybody's minds, and we're going to try and explore as much as we can through this session itself. So without further ado, let me just introduce our distinguished panel. And we'll start with ladies first. I'll start with Alice Ajiman-Bedu. So Alice and I connected not long ago through LinkedIn, the power of social media. Mm-hmm. And through that, she's kindly offered to provide us with her expertise. If you know her, if you've seen her profile on Google, you see that she's a certified, give me a second, she's a certified financial planner, chartered life underwriter, and the first female to be named senior partner of New York Life Insurance Company in their New York office. She currently focuses, right? So congratulations to her. She currently focuses on increasing and creating quality financial professionals in the industry. So not only is she certified, but actually training the new and upcoming professionals in the industry as well. She has an extensive background in the financial services industry, having started a career in New York Life in 2010. And then within 2 years, obtaining the investment license and becoming the registered representative with New York Life Securities. So welcome to Alice on this panel.
Thank you.
Second one, also just gotten to know him, but fellow APSU as well, who actually works for State Farm Insurance. Very strong individual. I've gotten to know him recently, and really have a good background and good sense around helping individuals invest into take charge of their personal finances and so forth, right? So he focuses on local businesses, focuses on individuals, focuses on life insurance, he's focused on risk management. So I think he's got wealth of experience that we can tap into for today as well. So Edwin Ampere Addison, welcome as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Charles Apedu, APSU 77. Most of you probably know him as Senior APSU. Interestingly, yesterday I was talking to a few friends and I said he's going to be on this panel. And the first thing they said to me is, that guy has too much brains. A lot of brains. I'm very keen to be able to listen to him. He's done everything. He's been in the corporate environment as an equity portfolio. He's also been an examiner and also led the whole chartered financial analyst. Actually, it's probably because of him that I never took that exam because it's just too hard. And then last but not least, in his current role right now, he's a professor at Cincinnati University where he specializes in investment portfolio and corporate finance. I've been trying to follow his roots, but I haven't got there yet. He did civil engineering just like me, did a PhD, and now he's obviously moving into finance, which is very similar to my background, but without the same brains that he's got. So without, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me just go straight into that. And all three of you, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, look, we live in an unprecedented situation, as I talked about. I'd like to hear from you, first of all, what you're seeing in your own respective fields, the challenges that you're experiencing, and for you personally, How have you been able to cope with that? So why don't I start with Alice to begin with?
Thank you, Peter. So during this time, it's so difficult for a lot of people. So many challenges are happening. But what I keep telling clients and what I keep telling our associates is that things have happened before. This is not a first of a kind. America have gone through the swine flu. We've gone through the pandemic. We've gone through a series of activities, but we've been able to come through that and make something positive. So even though we have no idea how things are going to be, I want us to look back what have happened before and how we were able to put things together and to be able to support ourselves. So not to panic so much, but to be able to learn from others, learn the best skills we can, and being able to pick some clues from previous before. Yeah.
And for you personally, how have you coped?
So pretty much making adjustment. At the end of the day, we still have to move on. We can decide to be so worried and not do anything or learn new skills, embrace technology, being able to adjust things from there. So every time when I come in contact with people, what I tell you, what are you learning during this time? What are some of the expenses you can take off during this time? What are you doing to improve yourself so that after all this thing, you could come out to celebrate instead of to look back and be worried? So personally, I'm learning a new skill every day. I try to read something every morning just to keep me going so that I don't get depressed, but I'll be able to look at the positive side. I was sharing with somebody, look at everything. We have more time on our hands now than ever before. So those with families, great time to spend time with your families. Great time to be able to not travel so much. I haven't worn suits in a long time today. I decided to just put one on. So let's look at all the positive, and that would just take some of the stress away instead of being so worried about what is happening. But let's look at the positive side of it.
Thank you, Alice. Senior Pisco, let's hear from you.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. And welcome to the webinar for all those listening and watching. Well, I'm a teacher, right? You look at just the last only 2 months and the kind of change that has taken place is just unprecedented. We were ready to take a group of students to Ghana, 16 students from the University of Cincinnati on a study abroad tour. We had purchased our ticket, we had held all our meetings and everything, and then just days before, the university announced we couldn't go, and everything had to be canceled. This is unprecedented. And then all classes were moved to online, remote delivery. So imagine, I had never taught an online class before. All my classes were face-to-face, but quickly we had to make changes. It's amazing how much we can learn when we are pushed to learn. I taught my classes, all my 3 classes online. My MBA class went very well. My undergraduate classes went very well. And I'm teaching this summer beginning on Monday. So I have Zoom, I have WebEx, I have PowerPoint, I have Excel spreadsheet. I'm able to do all these things, and students are able to watch. I can have 200 to 300 students at a time. So I have learned a lot. Without this, I wouldn't have learned it because I had to be pushed to learn that. But things have gone pretty well in terms of that. And personally, fortunately, we live in a very nice area, secluded area, and there is a lot of park. We have a park, we have lakes, we have trails that I can take miles and miles of walk every day. And one thing that I want to be able to say is that in these moments, it's very easy for us to fear, to live in fear, and to say that, oh, this is different. This is very different. But the way God has made us, we can adapt to changes, and we need to adapt to changes. So I always say that fear is a very crippling device. Don't allow fear to cripple you. It's true, this is a very difficult time, but we can move through this and come out unscathed, come out better than we went in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Edwin?
For some reason I was muted for a second. All right, so I'm back on. But yeah, I definitely do agree with everything that my other panelists have said. I'll say in my line of work, it's been more of finding the opportunities for our clients and our customers and also our team, because as an agency owner in the insurance industry, where most of your business comes from, the car insurance business, people are not driving as much these days. Yeah. So that kind of changes the entire game plan for you that you've had planned for a whole year. Is now like you have to make changes per day, so it's a changing environment. And I tell my team, I tell my clients that, hey, there's a perfect opportunity to find what are some of the things that you could do outside of the norm that could help you get ahead going forward. And just recently, I actually heard of a gentleman in New York that decided to start a GoFundMe page where people contribute like $1 or so. And once they get the full amount, they decide to go ahead and purchase groceries for those who don't have, those who have lost their jobs or those who actually need the money, and also the groceries. And this guy and his group ended up on, I believe, they ended up on TV, and they got featured for their own businesses that they were trying to come up with. So it was an opportunity for them, and they saw the opportunity in COVID. If COVID hadn't happened, they probably wouldn't have seen the opportunity. So I think that for all of us, we should learn to see how we can find some opportunities even amidst everything that's going on to help us get ahead or get to the next step versus having to sit there and worry about everything else that's going on.
Thank you. So Edwin, let me just stay with you. So sure. Right now, if any client was to come to you and ask you to advise them going through job security, thinking about the little savings and thinking about what they can do with their savings in general, what would you advise someone who just is not sure what to do, not sure about their job, thinking about maybe I should save, maybe I should invest, maybe I should really think about my expenses? What would you advise someone right now? Do you have like a basic thing that you advise people around or not?
Yeah, so there are 4 steps actually when it comes to the advising piece. And the first step is I tell a customer, hey, go ahead and let's analyze where you are today, right? Figure out exactly what's going on with you today. And let's identify, which the second thing will be to identify the gaps with where you want to be. So if you have a goal and you come to me and you tell me, Adam, this is where I'm trying to reach, but because of this, I don't think I'll be able to get there. The first thing is we have to analyze where you are today. Second thing, we identify the gaps with where you want to be or where you want to go. And then we look at what you can strategically do, especially around this time, to close those gaps. And then you get yourself, or I help you get on track as to how to achieve those goals. And this could be in a form, if someone comes to me and says, hey, Edwin, I'm kind of stuck between, do I save money or do I still go ahead and invest, or do I go ahead and just, I don't know, I'm just lost. Again, once we go through this process, you and I will be able to know that is this going to be a better opportunity for you to invest, or is it going to be a better opportunity to hold on to your money and invest in a sense that, let's say, for example, I had a client, there's a question and there's a real life scenario, but I had a client who has a great amount of savings already there, and he is into real estate. He comes to me and he said, Edwin, what should I do? And I said, well, hold on to your money for a little bit, because from my sources, as far as talking to my mortgage brokers, they're telling me that things are going to get worse as far as foreclosures that are going to happen to most people. So guess what? That's your opportunity. If you're a real estate investor, this is a perfect time to go ahead and hold on to the money and still go ahead and invest, because these homes are going to go on foreclosure. They're going to be sold or on short sales and things like that. So I think if I was to give you a straight answer, that would be like a generalized answer, but the answers are based on these 4 categories to help everyone to know, okay, how do I move or how do I proceed from here? So I'll go over it just one more time. That way everybody can write it down if you need to write it down, because you can do it for yourself. You analyze where you are today. You identify the gaps with where you want to be. You look at where, you go ahead and look at what you strategically want to do to close those gaps. And then you get yourself on track to achieve those goals by talking to a financial expert on that, and they'll be able to walk you through the process.
Thank you. Alice, what about if I take it one step further and someone comes to you, they just lost their job and they're trying to think about what to do next? What would you say to them?
So actually, I want to add something to what Edwin said, and I can answer that question. So talking about foreclosure, according to the stimulus package, there's a new law that is delaying foreclosures for at least 60 days. So if you are in a situation tight like that, maybe talk to your banker. They are delaying foreclosures for 60 days, starting from May 18 from there. Let me go back to that main question. So in life, in fact, personal financial planning, there are few things all of us have to do. The first thing we have to do is something we call cash flow management. We all have to sit down and see how much revenue comes in, how much is your paycheck coming in, how much is your expenses. Whatever is left is what we call the cash flow. After you've identified that number, then you have to do three things. We all need a short-term savings, a backup that, God forbid, if worst thing like this happening, you have something to fall on. So most experts will say you need an emergency savings, maybe 3 to 6 months for that. That is your short term. When you have that enough backup, then you think of your intermediate goals. It could be planning to buy a house, maybe trying to save for your child's school. Then we can plan for that before we even think about the long-term saving, which is your investment for retirement or something. So if somebody were to come to us right now to say, hey, what do I do? One, how is your cash flow like? Are you positive? Yes. Do you have enough emergency saving? Is it up to 3 months, 6 months? If it's up to that, then you can begin to plan for the long. I don't know if I added. So let me go back to my actual question you asked me. So if somebody comes to me and said they've lost their job, what do they do? This is a huge point. So one more thing I would say about the stimulus package, and I will talk about a few ideas. Unemployment have been extended for 39 weeks. So in New York, in America here, previously, if somebody were to file for unemployment, it was 26 weeks. Right now, they can actually go on for 36 months, and the amount have increased. So ask yourself, if you don't have any emergency saving, does it worth going on that? They've extended that. Then there are few opportunities somebody can tap into too. So if you've lost your job, you don't have any emergency savings, and you don't know where else to turn, you could tap into your 401k. So previously, when somebody left their job and they are taking money from their 401k, there was a mandatory 20% withholding. Right now, with everything happening, they've taken away from that. So instead of maybe letting somebody laugh at you, you could tap into that as a backup thing that you could fall on. So after maybe you've done that, now you could take even up to 100,000 from that account, and the taxes could be paid in 3 years. If you take enough to support yourself, then the rest will be how do we grow it, and at the same time making provisions to make sure your principal could be protected. I know if most people had retired this year, they couldn't have survived. So if you've lost your job and you've taken what you need to survive, the rest have to grow. But there are several investments out there, some of them like annuities and other things, could still protect your principal whilst getting all the upside. But sit down with a financial professional, they will be able to guide you to do that. And if you need to find a career, look into the financial services too, because it's one of the few areas that you could become your own boss, build a business for yourself without investing so much upfront. And if you've lost your job and you're looking for a career change, talk to me. Thank God I'm a senior partner at the firm, and I have an authority to hire. I will take you through the process and see if there's any opportunity there for you. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we'll all be coming for jobs from you soon.
Exactly. We are all coming. We are all coming.
We're all coming for jobs soon. Just two things before I ask the next question to Senior Pisco. First one is, if anyone's got any questions, please, you can either raise your hand, you can either send it through the chat. I've seen 1 or 2 questions come in, which I will ask. Also, I do appreciate that the audience is probably global, and so we'll try as much as possible to keep the discussion generic, although there will be times where we have to be very specific around, particularly the US as well. So just bear with us. I try and balance it as much as I can, and I will make sure that the panel explains some of the jargons as well, so that we can break it down to basics. So maybe, Pisco, you can pick that up from your perspective in terms of practitioner who's been in the industry as well as now the professor. How would you advise someone from your point of view?
Well, I think Alice said a lot. So what she said is good, but to just add a little bit to it, if there are different categories of people, right? There are people who have lost their jobs, and I think what Alice said is right on. There are many avenues. If you have some savings, 401k, by all means do what she's saying, because sometimes that is that is the only thing you can do to fall to your savings and so on. If you have not lost your job, then continue to do what you're doing. I've had people tell me, they ask me, oh, the market has gone down so much, should I withdraw my money? No, don't withdraw your money. A lot of people who are asking me that kind of question are in their 30s, in their 40s, even in their 50s. No, the market went down to 2237, the S&P 500, which captures the United States economy. It went down from 3393 or so to 2237. That was a huge loss. But at that time, people wanted to take their money, which of course would have been the worst thing to do. And the market has since come back to about 29 as we speak right now. So basically just keep investing your money. And investing doesn't mean put thousands of dollars a month. It's not everybody who has that kind of money. Whatever you can do, if it is a $50 a month, if it is 100, do that. Again, look at your own personal circumstances. This is not a rat race. Don't do what other people are doing necessarily, because everybody's different. So I think that as we begin to talk, we are going to encounter places where we say, look, for you, you need to do this. For this other person, he needs to do that. But always make sure you spend according to how much you make, and invest money. Don't wait until you are rich before you invest. In fact, invest to become rich in the future. Peter, I think Alice said a lot, but that is a small, just a few words that I'll add to that.
Okay, thank you. Let me stay there though. Let me just talk about, I think you said a lot around things like S&P 500 and the rest. Maybe it's worth breaking down, because I've seen questions coming around the stock market, and is there any recommendation around stockbrokers that we can put in place? But I think maybe it would be worth just breaking down when it comes to the stock market and the rest. What is your view around that? Because I do see that people do fear that A, I'm going to put money there, I'm going to lose this. B, I need a lot of money to be able to invest and so forth. So if we break it down and say someone had 1,000, 5,000 or whatever that they wanted to invest, and they wanted to invest in, let's say, a stock market, maybe you can break it down in simplistic terms, what we mean by the stock market and things that people can take advantage of.
All right, thank you, Peter. So, I don't want to take too long, but let's say this. I've heard many people say stock market is just lottery. It's just lottery. Really, what we mean by the market in its basic form is just participating in the economy. You become a part owner of the companies in the country you are investing in. So if it is Ghana and you buy stocks in Ghana, you're participating in Ghanaian companies. In other words, the economy of Ghana. If it does well, you do well in general. Or if specific companies you're investing in do well, you do well. In the US here, the United States economy is, of course, a multi-trillion-dollar economy. There are companies that really, exist in the economy. Now, what I say the S&P 500 is a collection of the 500 largest companies in the United States. That collection, called an index, covers about 75% of the United States economy. It includes all the companies, the large companies that everybody talks about: Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Costco, Home Depot, Kroger, all those companies. Now, if you invest in that collection, it's almost like you're investing in the companies. If the companies do well, you do well. Now, I think most people in the United States, by the time they retire, most people, their wealth will come from a lot of their investments in the market and real estate and so on. Insurance, real estate, the market, and so on, the stock market. And so I really strongly encourage all my students and so on that immediately you start working, before you get your first paycheck, go to your HR office, Sit down, if you are married, sit down with your spouse. Determine how much of your income you can invest every month, depending upon, of course, your salary. There isn't any instruction that says everybody should do this, right? But if you take a typical student, somebody who finishes his or her bachelor's degree in the United States, maybe they make $40,000 to $60,000 a year. Maybe a rule of thumb might be 10% of your salary, of your pre-tax salary. Put it in the market. As the US government allows you to set aside over $19,000 a year, pre-tax in your retirement account. Of course, it's not everybody who can part with 19,000. That is the limit, the upper limit. But you can do anything between zero and that amount. Don't think that it's only rich people. If it is $50 a month, do it. If it's $100 a month, do it. There are many people who can do much more than they're doing. And it's slow, but I always say investment is a marathon, not a 100-meter dash. Start and be consistent. If you do that, you'll be amazed at how much you can make. So depending upon how much time we have, I can go through real-life examples of people who did that. Now, somebody said, what broker? Just call any of the investment houses. You can call Fidelity, you can go to Vanguard, Schwab. You just call them and they will help you to set up an account. And then you begin to link that with your bank account. You begin to just invest, send money in there. You may ask, what should I invest in? Of course, all these houses, they have pre-packaged portfolios, depend upon your age and what you plan to do with that money. If it's a retirement money, they will help you. And those pre-packaged portfolios are pretty good. But if you don't want to go with those, the easiest thing to do, you just tell the person, invest in the large cap, let's say index, and they will know that means the S&P 500 index or large cap portfolio. So they will guide you. But first, don't sit down, call one of these houses, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab.
Oh, they should call us.
Or call them, call Alice, or call Alice, or call Alice. And by all means, set up the account and start. Start, please, by all means, start. Don't wait until you make thousands. I don't normally believe in this one-time investment. If you have $1,500, normally, if that is all that you have, chances are that it is not an investable wealth. Maybe that is the amount of money that you're going to use as a down payment for a car. That amount of money is not available for you to invest. I want to emphasize that we want the consistent monthly investment from your paycheck. And talk to your wife. Your salary increases, increase that amount. And this is what I'll go through. I have seen many, many people do this over a few years, 10 years, 20 years, and their portfolio has grown tremendously. So let's learn to be consistent investors over a long period of time. And
okay.
As questions come, I'll add more.
Thank you. And I think there's more interest here. So I'm going to go to Alice. There's another interest here on the whole investment part. So Alice, a question is coming, which is very similar to this as well, which is effectively for people who are not in the US, how can they invest into the S&P and so forth? So I think maybe it's worth, I don't know, maybe one of you can explain just a little bit around the markets, the equivalent of the S&P in the UK, the equivalent of that in maybe Asia, and then give people a sense around how they can invest as well. Alice, I don't know if you want to take this.
So what I would say is that investing is an art, okay? You can do it by yourself, but I would strongly suggest it's worth doing it with someone. Mostly if you take about a 20-year average, people who had an advisor working with them always make more than somebody trying to do it on themselves because of emotions. What doctor just said, with what just happened, a lot of people were taking money out themselves because they were afraid. But if you have a financial advisor on your side, they will tell you, don't do that. So I would strongly suggest, the terms are too many. So instead of being a master by yourself, look for someone. So if you're in UK, maybe the bank, look for somebody you trust. Somebody that you could call at night, but they will pick your call and walk you through. I think that is the best thing.
Alice, but can I just stop you there? One of the key things, though, is that people are always, and I had this question down, people are worried about a financial advisor. I only have 10,000. These guys are only thinking about people with 1 million and so forth. So can you give a sense around, the type of money we're talking about, whether it's really a financial advisor where a financial advisor can help? And if so, how would they? Because it'd be good to even give your own sense around what is the minimum that you've helped people on.
Okay, great question. So I know in America, maybe other parts of the world, financial advisors come from different firms. So we have financial advisors who come directly from an investment world, and we have financial advisors that could come from an insurance companies, and we have financial advisors that could come from the bank. Each of those people could have different minimums, but maybe the person you truly want to work with is somebody who is a financial planner.
Mm-hmm.
Why that? Because financial planner take the holistic view. So they are not only looking at, oh, let's invest. They will talk about your goals, what is important to you, and then how much should be put aside into your emergency, how much should go into your retirement, how much should go into your brokerage account, and guide you through. Mostly to even invest in mutual funds. Mutual funds could be anything. In America here, minimum of $500 can even get you into any fund. So it's not anything huge that people should think, oh, I should have a $5,000, $1 million to be able to do that. So definitely look for somebody who can do the holistic planning, not just looking for assets to manage for you, because then you don't feel intimidated that you don't have money. But please, when we are talking about investment, it's not just one in a coin, because to be wholly financially secure, there are 4 things that everybody should plan for. The first thing is that we have to minimize certain risks. Because if those risks are not minimized, you could go still withdraw the money when even the market is down. So find out from yourself, do you have a proper auto insurance? And I know maybe Adrian will talk about it. Do you have maybe disability insurance that if even you are disabled, there will still be a check coming in so you can allow that money to be invested? Do you want to find out whether you still have a life insurance that if God forbid something happen, your family will be taken care of? When you know that those risks are taken care, you have that stomach to say, let this money go. You have your emergency set. So you have those minimums done. Now you could say this money is purely for retirement. This money is purely for my children's college education. This money is purely for my future. That allows you to take more risk as compared to just looking at it as an investment without having a goals attached to it.
Thank you. And by the way, keep the questions coming. There's a lot of questions coming in. You're making my job easier because all I want to do is ask the questions that you care about. And so let me go to Edwin. And another question which is coming. So maybe you can comment on most of the conversation right now, but to add towards that, the next question is, do you have to pay these financial advisors? So maybe Edwin, you can comment and then answer this question as well.
So I know when it comes to the financial advising spot, I probably am not that abreast with it more than Charles and Alazar.
Okay.
However, I do know
maybe your own personal perspective, and I'll go back to Charles and
however, I do know that most financial advisors do charge, or planners do charge a fee for it. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and use a small brokerage firm, not to promote State Farm or anything, but I do know the State Farm actually just partnered with BlackRock and the American Funds Group, and they do offer the financial advising piece as well as part of the package that comes with the State Farm package. So not so much you paying them a fee to get the advice, but the fee will be paid on the investment. But I know that usually most firms do charge a fee just even to get the advice. So that's a little bit that I will add as far as what I know when it comes to what some of the bigger companies do.
Okay.
I would like to say something, maybe Doctor could say something. So as I mentioned, financial advisors come in different fold. Depending on the business build up, they could be compensated differently. So if you are looking at big money, and we are looking at something we call asset under management, somebody doing a wrap account to manage that money, then yes, they will charge a fee. But if you go through something we call the brokerage side, the mutual funds side, they will get a commission. So they will not charge you an additional fee. They will be compensated because they will purchase some securities for you. So don't be so scared that I don't have a fee. And mostly they can't even charge more than 1%. And that is if it's a very big account. If you are going to that wrap account. But if you are somebody beginning, maybe wrap account might not even be your thing. because you don't have those means to start. So they must start you from the brokerage side, which you not charge a separate fee. They will get commission.
What is a brokerage? What can you just give me a sense? What's the brokerage side?
So the brokerage side could be mutual funds. So as Doctor said, and maybe he will put, they will put all these companies.
I'm going to push you on terminology. Remember, the people around do not understand these things. So I want to push you. People, what is a mutual fund? Let's break it down, basic principles.
Okay, please. Doctor is the chief on terminology, so he will say that's how So if I don't have much money, as Doctor said, investing is just being a shareholder in that company. So maybe if you are thinking about technology company, all technology companies will come together and now you could invest in that. So you are not investing in one, but a group of them. But I'll let Doctor maybe, teachers are good with explanation of terms, to be honest.
No, Alice, I think maybe one question that you can answer for our audience is this. If somebody were to come to you and say, we want to sort of just get your service as a financial planner to help me know what to do, do you have advisors who will charge a fixed fee, whether it's $300 or something, to sit down to do your allocation and say, okay, put $100 a month to do this, set this up for the college fund, do this for this? I mean, how much would that kind of service cost?
Good, so great point. All the people I'm training them, so right now, because my team have become big, I'm more supporting, but on cases, if I need to be part of the meeting, I do. We will actually do the planning for you for free.
Okay.
We do the planning for you for free. Because they know at the back end, if somebody chooses to buy anything, they will be compensated. So the planning, we do it for free.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't be scared. I don't have a huge lump sums of money, so I don't. But definitely when you get huge, there will be an aspect that I feel will be required. But doing the planning, mostly we will do it for free.
It's a win-win. Okay. Senior Pisco, let's go back to you then.
Okay.
You can have more to it.
So, I mean, okay, so now let's explain the mutual funds and so on. In the United States, right, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of companies. So they are broken down into sectors of the economy. And when I say sectors, what I mean is something like healthcare, technology, industrial companies, consumer staples. Consumer staples would be companies that produce things that everybody needs, like food, like soap, and so on. Right? And then we have consumer discretionary. These are things that, hey, if I don't have money, I can do without them. But when I have money, I can buy them. You look at computers and so on. I mean, like laptops. So there are many, many things, right? And there are about 11 sectors in the US economy, 11 sectors. And when we say a mutual fund, instead of buying one company, right, one stock and so on, we know that when you diversify, when you spread your money among many assets, you reduce the risk, the uncertainty. And so a mutual fund tries to put together many companies, many stocks, so that when you buy that mutual fund, it's like buying one stock, but it's a collection of many companies, so that it's diversified already for you, and you are not facing too much risk. Okay, so the S&P 500 index that I talked about, which is a collection of the 500 largest companies in the US, is really what market is the most well-diversified mutual fund, because it's supposed to be the entire market, but of course, the actual entire market, which would be like 20,000 stocks, it's not observable. We can't get our hands on them. And so a proxy, something that approximates that, is the S&P 500, which will capture about 70 to 75% of the US economy. If you want something that is actually covering larger, like 90%, you have to go with an index called the Russell 3000 Index, which will cover the 3,000 largest companies in the US. That will cover more than 90% of the entire US economy. But some of them are so small that liquidity is a problem. So the S&P 500 Index is a pretty good buy. If you want technology, we have mutual funds that collect technology stocks together. And you know, this market has been driven in large part by technology. I mean, the technology stocks have done very well. But before the fact, we didn't know it was going to happen, right? So if you invest in only technology, you are still taking a huge risk, because things could go worse than they are right now. So those are the mutual funds. But again, as I say, there are many ways to understand this. For example, in the Cincinnati area here, sometimes I speak to churches, right? I speak to groups. I don't charge anything. I'll just speak and sort of hold a seminar. at least to help you know if you want to start a 401k, how do you start it, right? How do you start basic things like that? And if it is $100 or $50 a month that you can put there, I can help you to say, these are the mutual funds, the funds that, let's say, Vanguard or Alice's company will have. These are the different portfolios, collection of assets. And this is the meaning. If you invest in this, it means you're taking this much risk. When this happens, you're going to do well. When this other thing happens, you're going to do poorly, and so on. And they will tell you in the past X number of years, this has been the return. That is how much you will have made every year or every month in this category. But again, when normally I want to keep things simple. When you're starting, just decide how much you're going to invest, put it in there. Almost all the mutual fund companies, these investment firms, like Alice's company, like Vanguard, like Fidelity, like Schwab, all of them have prepackaged portfolios, that is funds. And they will tell you that depending upon your age, and if it's a retirement account, let's assume it's a retirement account, depending upon your age and when you plan to retire, then they will say this is the portfolio that is best suited for you. So for people who don't know anything, every company will help you. Like Alice is saying, they will help you plan without charging you anything, because once you start investing, the fees they get will cover them.
Yeah.
The first thing is do that and then consistently keep doing that. But if you want me to show you numbers, I can show you numbers later.
Yeah. And I think I just want to stress that as we go through this is not an investment advice. This is about investment education, right?
Exactly.
So it is important that you're taking those educations, and then to everything that has been said, think about it. And the best thing you can do is if you have a financial planner who can then work with you based on your situation and then try and adjust that. I think that makes sense, right? I mean, I'll give you my own, I can share my own examples around. And I think for those in the UK, let me just give you an example. Some of the things that we're talking about will be equivalent to something like having an ISA, right? Because when you have an ISA, you can choose where the investor or the person who's doing the investment for you, you can choose where they invest it. So they can choose them to say, can you invest into the healthcare sector for me using a mutual fund, a structure or something like that. And I think just giving a sense around my own portfolio that I maintain, sometimes I buy what we call single stock, which is an individual stocks. Mm-hmm. So I buy maybe Zoom that we're using right now because Zoom is gone up. I buy IBM. That is called, when you buy those individual mm-hmm. shares, you can say, I want to go buy 100 shares of IBM. That's what we call single stock, individual stocks that you own. You can then say, actually, I want to think about the technology sector or the healthcare sector to senior fiscal analysis and comments as a group, because I don't want to be exposed to just one company. And so, but I want to think about the technology sector. So you can say, okay, and let me go to somebody who manages a portfolio. They manage a portfolio, and you can look at their portfolio and say, which are the companies that they tend to invest in? They can say maybe they invest into what they call the S&P 500 type companies, or the FTSE 100 in the UK companies, mm-hmm. which is largely similar to the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. These are the biggest companies that you can think about in the UK. It will be the British Telecoms and all those big companies are here to be the equivalent of Verizon and the rest. You can go to them and say, okay, I want to buy a collection of that. And then some of that is called mutual funds, or if they trade on the exchange, they call it exchange traded funds and so forth. But that means that you as an individual, you don't want to take an individual single company risk. So there are many options, but to everything that they've talked about, a financial planner can help you go through that as well. Now, there is a question that's coming just to follow up on that, and then I'll pivot back to unemployment and so forth, because other questions are coming in. But the next question which is coming is it ever too late to start investing or financial planning? Is it ever too late? Because obviously some of us all have gray hair. We're probably thinking about retirement, and you're telling us maybe we should start thinking about investment. So is it ever too late? Let me start with Alice, and then I'll go to Edwin, and then get your views.
Never. It's never too late to start, because it's still better than waiting till tomorrow. Definitely, if you have started earlier, don't need to put in so much to get the same thing, but it's never too late. So please, wherever you are today, if you feel there's something you want to accomplish, do not wait. Make the step, because it's still better than tomorrow. And then definitely that will allow you to be able, maybe, let me put it this way. Maybe if you are a little bit matured and you are planning for retirement, you might not be able to take as much risk as somebody who might be younger, but it still doesn't prevent you from doing it. So mostly as you sit down with a planner, they'll be able to show you that, hey, if you have 5 years to your goal, if you have 10 years to that goal, maybe let's look at something a little bit conservative, maybe something more aggressive. The shorter you have towards that goal, the less aggressive maybe they might suggest, so that you don't lose so much if things don't go well. But definitely it's never too late to begin something today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edwin, thank you.
Yeah, so I will definitely say that it all comes down to your risk tolerance. So it depends on how much risk you are willing to take. So it doesn't really matter how old you are. It will come down to how much risk you choose to be able to take on. And like Alice said, I mean, as you get older, your risk tolerance is quite low versus you being younger. So if you're younger, you allow yourself enough room before the retirement, but then some older folks also have enough assets to say, hey, let's go ahead and take that risk and see what the results would be. So I will also say that it's never too late. It all just comes down to how much risk you can stomach, and that will depend on what type of investments you can go into.
Okay, thank you. There's one question here that is quite interesting. I'll read it out. So it says, the discipline required to stick to any financial plan is akin to losing weight or
Yes.
staying physically fit. That's most of us would need finance trainers or clubs. What would you recommend as the prerequisites for adopting a good club or trainer? Basically, if we were to start,
yeah,
how would you recommend how we start so that we can get a good trainer and a good,
perfect.
club?
So perfect. Going to, I don't know if it's even directed to me, but I've already volunteered to answer.
If you volunteer, you start, you can go ahead.
Sure. So picking a financial advisor is like picking a spouse. Okay. This is somebody that you want them to be there with you during good times, during bad times, to kiss your spouse when you are no longer home. So you want somebody that you could relate. You want somebody that their values align with your values. You want somebody that will respond to you. So even though we don't really have one way to do it, look at your values, because there are so many people, and some of their clubs or the advisors would just say, this is what we are good at. So when you are sitting down with somebody, just find out from them, one, are you able to connect with them on a personal level? Find out their expertise. Is that area that you are looking for? And mostly look into the churches that you are part of, look into any organization. There are so many advisors that some will be just even close by, but you just didn't even know they can be of help. So look for somebody you can relate to.
Okay.
Okay. And when it comes to company, let me bring one thing. When it comes to companies today, there's something we call ratings of a company. So in America, I don't know what it is in UK. I know there's institutions that rate every financial institution. In US here, we have something we call the Moody, the Fetch, and other things. So if you also want to choose a company, choose those companies that have a AAA rated. The higher the A's, the stronger the company. Find out from the company what is their reserve, so that in the case, worst case, now you know they have something. I'm not here to preach we are a AAA rated company and 27 billion in surplus, but those two things could be helpful. The ratings of the company, their asset, and the person you are going to work with, how you can relate to, could be important.
Okay. Thank you. I know we lost Senior Pisco, but I'm sure he'll come back on again.
And just a quick input for you.
I need to be on the video. Let's see.
Okay. We miss you. I'll check you up. And just for your message, Senior Jesse J is also on. Let me try and get Senior Pisco back on.
Okay. All right. So there's one question here which I want to ask, which is from Kobe Sapon, which is it advisable to file for unemployment? And what are the pros and cons, especially in terms of tax refund?
As a matter of fact, let me talk a little bit about unemployment, but please pardon me, this will be a little bit specific to the US here. Okay. Previously, depending on the type of job you did, some of the jobs you couldn't have even applied for unemployment. Like if you were a taxi driver, which is self-employed, if you were sole proprietorship, you couldn't have even applied for unemployment. But for now with everything happening, they've liberalized the rules. So it's not going to hurt. If even you are a taxi driver, you are a hairstylist or something that you've lost, you'll be able to still, with everything happening in America now, you could still apply for unemployment and it's not going to affect you. In terms of how it affects you in taxes, that one I'm not sure. But if you've lost your job, go for it. They've actually increased the amount now to about, they've added additional $600 to what you could get on a weekly basis.
Yeah. And any quick comments on that?
Yeah, so I know from, as far as the tax implications, that I do not know, but from an employer standpoint, I know that previously it would affect you as far as your employer looking at it and saying that, hey, this guy filed for unemployment, then they will want to go ahead and take a look more into like what was the really reason why you decided to file for unemployment. But in this case that we're in, most employers like myself do know that, hey, this is an entirely different situation we're in, and most folks are going to lose their jobs because of everything that's going on. So from what the states have said, it is not going to affect you in any way, shape, or form when it comes to the employment end of it. I know for tasks, it shouldn't affect you that much.
Yeah.
But I would say to definitely go ahead and apply for it because everybody needs it at this point.
Okay, Kevin.
So if there's no another question, during times like as I think I started in the beginning, you might also want to check where could you find money. So the unemployment could be one. You could look into your retirement account if you're in US. If you're in US, you can also look into your life insurance contract. Some of those contracts do provide you with cash that in times like this, you could take a loan that you don't have to pay back and to also support you. And it doesn't affect your credit score or anything. So if you have insurance like that, this could be an avenue to also take money from it.
So, okay, I know I'm going to ask this question, but this is probably going to be, apologies for now. This is going to be more specific to the US.
Yeah.
But I think there is interest, which is if just maybe you can just break it down just for the US guys. If someone has lost their job right now, what do they need to do to apply for stimulus package or anything? What do they need to do?
They just have to go to the unemployment office. Most of the states are allowing them to even doing it online. I know majority of the time is being blocked. So go to your unemployment office to do so. If you used to have a business before it happened, there's a loan app there. They actually gave, let me see the exact amount, 250 billion allowed to small businesses that it could even be loan forgivable. So if you had your own business, and then you've gone through job loss, apply for those PPP loans. So far as you used to file Schedule C, you might be able to qualify for that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And that one could be done through your bank.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Senior Pisco, question for you.
I don't have much to add, but I don't think when people ask about a tax implication, I don't think there is any negative impact. If you need unemployment, you've worked in the US for a long time or wherever you are. I mean, I don't know other countries' laws. But here, if you've come to the point where you need to apply for unemployment, don't feel shy. Go ahead. That's the reason why it was instituted, to help people in this situation.
Yeah.
So, don't feel shy at all.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Senior Pisco. What is the better option, in your opinion, life insurance or investing in the stock market?
Oh, if you ask me,
yeah.
Okay. All right, so I know that Alice and Edwin,
they play different roles, so talk and then I'll add.
Yeah, that's why I asked you first.
They are insurance experts, but my take is everybody needs life insurance. Every person needs life insurance because we cannot predict when things are going to happen. I carry life insurance, and I urge everybody to carry life insurance. Life insurance that if something happens can take care of your family. Okay, so definitely go with that. What kind of life insurance? I know they have whole life, they have term life, they have different kinds of life insurance. My personal thing is to go with a term life insurance that is suitable for me and to do my own investment in the market. and not let the life insurance do the investment for me. But that's my personal thing. It's not a rule. I don't have a rule against letting the insurance do that. But my personal thing is to take a term life insurance and then invest, in the market for my investment. I don't let the life insurance do the investment for me. But that's my personal one.
Okay, I think you just invited me to talk. Okay, doctor. Okay. So I completely agree with doctor. Okay, there are several financial tools and we should use them as such. Everybody needs money in the market. For the US, the average stock market has done over 8%. So investing money there would definitely let your money grow. But we also know that we don't know when the market will fall. So that is when whenever somebody is investing, there's need to take a look at alternatives. That is where people will have real estate as a backup. That is where people will put money somewhere. So yes, if it's purely to gain the highest in the market, is stock market, and we can help you do that. But remember, when we were talking about the risk management, life insurance play a very important role. If something happened to you today, what happened to all the income that you were bringing home? That is your purchasing power. So if you were making 100,000 today and you were to work for 30 years, you were to provide $3 million to your family. What if you don't make it home today? All that $3 million is gone. But now when it comes to the right type of life insurance, there's so many arguments about it. But maybe what I can do is to explain it to you so you could make your decision yourself. So the first type of insurance is something we call pay as you go. It's so less expensive, like renting an apartment. Every time you live in that rent and the lease is up, what happened? They have to renew your lease and your price will go up. But at the end of the year, can you pass that rental apartment to your children? No, it can never be an inheritance. It's gone. So that is what a term insurance is like. It's like you are renting the insurance from the insurance company. You could rent it for 10 years, you could rent it for 20 years, you could rent it for 30 years. At the end of that time, it's gone. You don't have it again. I know most people will make an argument that maybe at that time your investments will be up. Then there's the permanent type of insurance, which is like a house. Whenever you purchase a house, you have it as a fixed mortgage. The price will never go up. But at the same time, you build equity. And doctor, the reason why mostly people look at the life insurance as a form of a saving is not to replace their investment, but to have a backup. So that in case the stock market go down, I have an uncorrelated asset I could fall on. But so similar to your bond alternative, not just comparing it to the stock market. The price is fixed. Mostly when you grow old and in case you still need money, you could tap money into that. When I was buying my house, I was just here by myself at that time. I was able to take money from my life insurance policy because I didn't want to take it from my investment to help me in the down market. And one thing people always don't look at is the tax benefit. If I leave my investment money to my children, they don't get it tax-free. Either they will have a step up in basis, but if it's even a retirement account, they still have to pay all the taxes. If it's a life insurance and you leave it to your family, it's completely tax-free. So we are never saying one will replace the other. We all need investment. But when you are purchasing the life insurance too, if you have the means, look into the permanent one too, because I don't think your investment was to pass on to your children. You want to enjoy that. But if there's a need for a legacy, look at all the white people. They are having endowment for hospitals. They are having endowment for charity. Where does all that money come from? It comes from a life insurance contract, but that is not a term policy because that will expire. So if you know that you are going to die in 10 years, 20 years, go buy a term insurance because at the end of that, you are dead. And if you don't know when you are going to die, then maybe there's a need for a permanent policy because if even you live to age 121, that policy will be dead. So there are types, but it doesn't replace investment. I think both of them are needed for your financial plans.
Okay, I get it. I hope you're not predicting that we all should know when we're going to die. I get that. Edwin, from a personal point of view, what do you think? Do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah. So from a personal and professional point of view, I advocate for a mixed option. So the investment, like Alice said, The life insurance does not replace the investment. The investment does not replace
Life insurance.
the life insurance at all, because no one can figure out when the stock market is going to tank or when it's going to be on the up and up. However, when it comes to life insurance, and I don't advocate necessarily for just one type of life insurance, I recommend to customers to mix and match it, because if you have that mix, you can have the term life insurance, which I consider temporary life insurance, go ahead and cover that need that you know that, okay, in the next 30 years, if I wanted to be working and also taking my kids to school, however, if I do pass away and I'm not there anymore, that temporary life insurance, which tends to be a little bit more affordable for most people, that's why most people tend to go with temporary life insurance, that it will be able to cover that need. But like Alice said, the permanent life insurance is more of a legacy type thing where it stays with you for the rest of your life. There are policies where you pay for a certain number of years, and then at a certain point, you don't have to pay for it anymore. The policy will still continue to grow. It will still continue to stay in place for you. So I will advocate for having a mix and match of the temporary and the permanent life insurance versus just sticking with one. But again, they don't necessarily take away each other as far as like life insurance replacing an investment.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder if we can do a poll of how many people have life insurance. That would be very interesting.
If you don't have it with this COVID, please look for your agent. It's scary.
I think, I think people are talking about job losses and everything else. I do think the number one priority is life insurance in situations like this. Okay, there's one question which has come up, which is now staying on the investment side. So maybe I will answer that, and then maybe I can shift a little bit into retirement and so forth as well. So this question is around, and this is probably for Senior Pisco, futures, contracts, foreign exchange. How do they fit into individual financial plans towards retirement?
It depends on who is doing these kind of things, right? I mean, because for me, if I were to
give a sense around, maybe you give a sense around what is futures, contracts, and all these things that people are using terminology, please.
Yeah. So the futures, the opposite of futures would be the spot market. So when all the time we're talking about the stock market, we're talking about spot. Like right now, you go there and you buy the stock. Let's say you buy Microsoft. You are buying Microsoft today, and the price is today. Okay, today's price. Now the futures. You are agreeing on a price of Microsoft or whatever the asset is at a future date, but the agreed upon price is now, today. So I'm agreeing, let's say, to buy corn, gold, anything. Let's say the future date is 1 year from now, but the price is set right now. And as you can see, that is a hedge, right? It's like a risk management tool. So if you are a baker and you need flour, for example, you need flour and you don't want to subject yourself to the fluctuation in prices of flour, then you want to agree on a price of flour right now. And you say, okay, I will need flour 6 months from now. So I'm agreeing on the price so that you remove the uncertainty in the price of flour. So you go to the futures market, agree on the price of flour right now that you will need 6 months from now. So that's a futures price. And the agreed upon price is made today. So we have many of these, they are called derivatives. And we have other derivative contracts like call options, put options. And these, some of them are insurance schemes. So if you have, let's say, like we talked about stocks, right? You have stocks, you bought them. You think that you expect the market to go up, but it can go down. And you want to protect yourself on the downside. You can buy a put option. A put option will pay you, it's an insurance. It will pay you when the market goes below a certain limit. When your stock or whatever you hold goes below a certain price, then whatever you've lost from that price downwards will be paid by the put option, by that insurance. So it's an insurance scheme. Now, how does something like that fit into your whole portfolio? Again, it's like buying insurance. So you can hold on to the asset, like in a market like this. So when the market started going down from 33 something, and if you think, okay, I'm bullish on the US market in the long term, which means that I expect the US market to do well, the stock market to do well in the long term. But in the short term, with this COVID-19, things can go really bad. But I don't want to sell my asset. Then you can buy a put option insurance with a certain price. Let's say the market was at 33.90. Then you say, okay, I can take a loss up to 3,200. So I'm buying, the S&P 500 futures with the price being 3,200. So that whenever it goes below 3,200, any difference will be picked up by that put option. So it will be paid to you. So you are rest assured that 3,200 is the worst that can happen to you, because the insurance, the put option will pay you the downside, right, below 3,200. So that's a very important thing. It doesn't mean that everybody should do that. Somebody like me, I didn't do it when the market started going down. I already thought my own way. I thought the market was overpriced. The stock market is overpriced. So December 27, I sold and kept only 35% of my investment in the market. And then I was expecting to jump back in because I thought the US economy would do very well. That is my own future outlook. So I was expecting the market to go down from January to April, and then I'll come back in. Of course, there was no COVID-19 at that time, but that was my own expectation. Then the COVID-19 came, the market was going down. So I sold everything, the rest of it on February something, when the S&P 500 got to 32.25. Then I sold everything. And then it went down all the way to, of course, I couldn't time the bottom. So I got back in at 23.86. Somebody could have used an insurance, a put option, to do something like that. I didn't want to spend any money to buy insurance. I just let it go. And then I got back in at 23.86. It went down below that. I didn't do anything. Then it came too quickly for me, came up too quickly for me. So I sold when it got to about 2,700. I sold almost everything, got back. So, I mean, it depends on how sophisticated you are. But an insurance like that, the options can help some people. I don't know if I'm...
No, I think that's good. Basically, these are quite sophisticated tools that one should only think about the basics first. So,
exactly.
If you want to play into that, definitely get your financial advisor or financial planner to help you think about your long-term plan, of which some of them will be the here and now savings. Some of them will be how to be able to use some of the savings to balance between cash and investment. And then once things are getting better, maybe they can start helping you get a little bit sophisticated. But these are sophisticated tools that I will walk before I run. But I think it's a good question to ask, just so that we can explain it.
In the US here, if somebody have over 100,000 to have an individual, so the advisor will be able to do all this.
Right, for them.
For those
exactly.
Yeah.
There's a question here. This is from Echo Hayford. What benefit does a policyholder have after no claim has been made over a significant period of years? I can see where this question is going. So maybe Alice, you can start.
Is it more of a life insurance or your car policy?
Let's talk about life insurance, and maybe I can talk about car policy as well.
Maybe this is life.
So if it's a life,
definitely life.
Okay, good. So going back to the two types of the life policy, where the argument starts, if it's the temporary, the term insurance, pretty much when you rent an apartment, you cannot go to your landlord to say, you know what, I've stayed here for all this while, give me my rent back. So if it's the term insurance, unfortunately, you are not able to get any money back. If you were to pass away, the insurance company will have paid. Most temporary policies, you have an option, depending on the company, to upgrade into a permanent policy, and maybe they might give you 1 year of those premium paid. So if it's a term policy, nothing happened to you, unfortunately, that was the deal. But if it's a permanent policy, remember, all the that is why the premium is a little bit higher than the term insurance, because in the initial stages, you are not that grown. So there's extra money that is being saved. It's not invested. In most cases, it's being saved for you. So maybe 5 years and above, 10 years and above, if you are still alive, that money is yours and you could tap into that. And even depending on the insurance company, some of them do add. So in the insurance world, there are some companies called mutual companies. Those companies, their customers are the owners of them. So when they actually do make profit, which is called dividend, they share with you. So in that case, with that savings you are having, Additionally, you also be getting dividend, which varies, though it's not guaranteed. So that money is yours. So if even you are still alive, you could take it to supplement your retirement, supplement your children's education. And one good thing in that, in US here, most of those policies from a life insurance policies are mostly on a tax-free basis. So depending on the type that you have.
Thank you.
Yes.
Edwin, I will go one step further and ask maybe this question as well. So not only are we talking about life insurance, but let's just talk about auto insurance and all these kind of credit cards and the rest that we have. And today, we're not driving that much. Our cars are at home. We're not buying gas, but we're paying insurance, right? Credit card companies are taking advantage of getting money from some of these stimulus packages. We have companies who are taking advantage of that, but they're not passing it on to us. Can you give us what can we do as individuals to manage the here and now when we know that some of these expenses, there's potential to probably speak to our mortgage companies, auto insurance companies, whatever it is, to be able to, minimize this expenditure. Even if it's $1 that we can save, it goes a long way.
$1?
I'm assuming $1 is a big number.
Well, first, when it comes to the credit cards, what you could do, especially around this time, is if you have a high interest rate on your credit card, you do need to call your credit card company and ask them to go ahead and see if they can go ahead and reduce that interest rate for you, because some credit card companies are doing that. Right. And they're allowing their clients or customers to be able to do that, but you have to be the one to call to actually ask them to do that. And most of them are actually doing that. So that's the first thing that I would say when it comes to saving money, because with the lower interest rate, you could be saving yourself thousands of dollars down the line for your payments, and also making sure that the monthly payments you're going to be making are going directly to the principal that you owe, or at least most of it is going directly to the principal versus everything going to the interest. So that's the first thing that I would advise. Now, when it comes to the car insurance piece, I will say that the best thing is to call your insurance company to first and foremost see if they have a mileage plan, because most car insurance companies these days have a mileage plan. And let me speak on behalf of State Farm. I know State Farm specifically has a drive safe and save thing, which is what our mileage plan is. So if you're on that plan and you're not driving that much, we are able to go ahead and lower your mileage, which in turn could affect your insurance by, I'll say, actually more than $1, Peter. So you actually get, I'll say, like an additional 30 or 40 or 50, or even sometimes hundreds of dollars back on your car insurance plan. Now, I know that most insurance companies or most car insurance companies have gone ahead to release what we call like a relief for most of our customers. I know State Farm gave back $2 billion in customer premium to credit most customers' policies. So if anybody's listening here in the U.S., you have State Farm and you haven't been told about this, certainly call your insurance company. And State Farm is even doing that for new customers who are looking to join the State Farm family. They're giving some of those customers part of that $2 billion, because Alice had mentioned that some insurance companies are mutually owned, and State Farm is a mutually owned company. So the profits that we make, we're able to pass that down to our customers because the company is actually owned by the customers as a whole. So I will say that these are the two things to look out for. Your mileage plans, check with your car insurance company. If they do have a mileage plan, get on it. And also take a look at your coverages. There are some coverages that you might not necessarily need, that you may be able to go ahead and say, hey guys, let's just go ahead and review my car insurance plan to see if some of these coverages I wouldn't necessarily need it right now. And also, if you have multiple vehicles, guess what? You probably might have like one vehicle that's probably not being driven since we decided to do this stay-at-home thing. So they can go ahead and put that vehicle on a different plan that will have you not paying insurance on it, even though the vehicle is still insured and just sitting. So those are some options that I would say go ahead and and
I'm
discuss.
definitely going to do that. Trust me. Albert, can we bring? I see that Charles was also responding. Maybe I don't know if we can bring Charles voice in to give us perspective as well.
Okay, I'll get him on. So
yeah,
I just sent him a message that he should be decent when he comes on camera.
Okay, all right. Well, so can I maybe just turn into retirement a little bit, because clearly we've talked about how to survive. We've talked about a little bit around survival going to investment, but also probably we have to also think about retirement. And we've talked about obviously life insurance and everything else. But maybe Senior Episcopal, when you're advising and teaching your class around retirement and rights, do you have a sense around? Can you just give us a sense around how you think about retirement and what advice you can share with the audience?
Thank you, Peter. So I'm really passionate about this topic because there's a crisis, as you know, and if there's a crisis in the US, you can bet there's a crisis in the developing countries. There's a retirement crisis, and I'm going to share screen, so bear with me a little bit. I'm going to share my screen, and then we can see what's going on in the US here. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to just share this screen. Where is that? Where's my? All right, let's see here. Okay, wait. Okay, so I'm going to exit here. Let's bring my. Just one moment. Let's bring in the.
No problem. We're all learning about technology, so that's fine.
Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Everybody can see that. Okay. So I'm just going to go through a little bit the retirement crisis, right? So here, what we see is that, so there's, just go through quickly. In the advanced economies, the US, Europe, Japan, and so on, maybe not so much Africa, but we are seeing decreasing birth rates, increasing lifespans. People are living to 80, 90, 100 right now. And yet we see that the retirement accounts are dwindling. So in fact, many countries are facing a lot of, some huge crisis, because over the next few decades, we expect that the public retirement benefits, right, that these countries are giving to their citizens will be expected to grow to about 25% of the gross domestic product of the countries. 1/4 of the GDP will have to be set aside as a transfer payment to retirees. But there aren't many people working to really provide this amount of money. So we need to start right now. But just take a few, let's look at this slide here. If you look at in the US, this is for the United States. And if it happens in the US, you can know that it's worse for most parts of the world. People who are aged 20 to 29, the average retirement account balance is $11,800. Okay, they haven't worked for a number of years, so that's fine. But the median is $4,300. And the median means if you split in the middle, half of the people have $4,300 below that and half above that $4,300. The average normally is higher because there are people who have a lot of money. They've saved a lot. So that sort of pulls the average towards them, towards the higher end. Now, I just want to go on particularly to those who are, let's say, 50-somethings. They are from 50 to 59. The average retirement account is about $174,000, right? And the median is $60,900. If you come to those who are in their 60s, these are the people who really are in their retirement age right now. Some of them are retired, some of them are still working. The average is almost $200,000 in their retirement account. But the median, half of the people have less than $62,000 in their retirement, and half of them have more than 62. Imagine in the United States, you're in your 60s, and you have, that is half of the people have 62,000 below that amount. That's a very, very, bad situation, difficult situation. So what I've done here is this. Even I just went to take real data. This is actual data in the past 32 years, from 1988 to today. And remember, this period has seen 3 difficult eras, difficult time periods in the financial industry, in the economy. the dot-com era, there was a crash, right? And then we had the 2008, 2009, recession, Great Recession. Then you have the COVID-19. Three very, very difficult downturns in the United States in this 32-year period, And yet, when I checked the compound average monthly rate of return, if you were invested passively in the US economy, in the S&P 500, you will have gained 0.8% every month, okay? Now, of course, some periods were less. So what I've done here is to just go through in a very simple way that if you are invested a certain amount, and I'm using very basic amount that I think most of us can do. If you are living in the US here, working here, a lot of people can invest $100 a month, okay? Or $200 a month or $500. Of course, some can invest more, but I just want to use these amounts for illustration purposes. And I'm using returns that are lower than what has happened in the past 30 years, 32 years. I'm using 0.5% a month, and I'm using 0.65% a month, and I'm using the high end, which is 0.8%. This is what has actually happened, 0.8% a month. And then I'm saying that if an individual in the 30-year period, this is 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So if you had invested $100 a month, then at the end of 10 years, you would have gotten $16,388 if the return is 0.5% a month, which is like 6% a year, and so on. And then you can go through that. Let's pick a few. If you have the high end, if the market if, for example, if the future is going to be like the past 32 years, that means if you're going to earn 0.8% a month on your retirement, on your investment, and you were to put $500 a month, which is the highest on my table here. I know some can do less, some can do more. But if it is $500 a month, then after 30 years, you have 1.04 million, 1,040,000, 38,000. After 10 years, $100,000. After 20 years, 360,000. So that's what I have here. This table is just showing what we can do. But the important thing here is that investing is for a long term. I cannot overemphasize that. 2007 is 13 years ago. I was advising a Ghanaian woman, a Ghanaian lady, who was making quite a bit of money, a registered nurse, but had nothing, zero investment. And after, talking to her, looking at her expenses and everything, we determined together that she could put 20% of her salary into the market, because you're in your almost 50 years old, 40-something years old, and you had nothing. You need to be more aggressive, and she could do that. It was a very difficult thing because she said, no, then my take-home pay is gone. If I put 20%, there's nothing, my take-home pay is gone. But of course, we are determined that she could do this. The only thing that she wouldn't see that money in her bank account. And for many, that was difficult, right? I won't see the money. So for a finance person, I thought that was strange, but it's your own money, only that is in a different account. But a lot of people want to see the money in their bank account, right? So I convinced this woman, I said, look, set that aside. This is for your future. Eventually, she agreed. And she was putting 20% consistently tucked away. I was managing this for her without charging her anything. I just do this as a pro bono for the community. Now, right now, as I'm speaking today, that woman has over $400,000 in her account. But guess what? If that amount of money had hit a bank account every month, I can guarantee you there'll be nothing left in that account today. But there'll be a lot of clothing and jewelry, There'll be clothing and jewelry, but nothing, no money. What is the import of this? I just want to say that we need to be consistent. Even if it is 50, if you cannot do what that woman did, and you can do half of that, it means you have 200,000, half of her money. Okay, so the idea is this: if you look at this, you can see that everybody can do something. Even if it's not $100, you can do $50 a month. But by all means, start something and be consistent. And check your expenses. So what I've done is this: the last page I have here is, so in your retirement phase, we expect people to live longer. So what I've done here is that I've taken a 20-year withdrawal phase in retirement. So let's assume, of course, when you are retired, you cannot take a lot of risk. So I've assumed a lower interest rate for your investment. So 4% a year, 5% a year, or 6% a year. And I believe that even when you are retired, part of your money should be in different assets, part in the stock market, part in bond, part in insurance, and so on. So 5%, 4%, 5%, 6%, these are not outrageously high. In fact, a lot of annuities can give you that, insurance annuity. So I just wanted to be conservative here. So what I have is, if somebody has $500,000 at the time that she retires, how much can this person withdraw every month over a 20-year period? Okay, so this is what I've done. Over a 20-year period, how much can she withdraw if she decides to leave a certain amount as inheritance, as bequest for her offspring? So here, the way the table reads is, if you have 4%, if the investment return is 4% a year, this is a year, and you plan to leave nothing for your children because you've taken care of them and everything, then you can withdraw. If you have a portfolio of $500,000 at retirement, the day you retire, then you can withdraw $3,030 a month if the return is 4%. Now let's go to, let's say 6%, which is the highest I have here. If you have 6% return, if you can make 6% a year, which is 0.5% a month, and you plan to leave nothing for your children, you can withdraw $3,582 a month for 20 years. Now, you can actually leave $1 million for your children and still be able to withdraw $1,418. Now, so this is, of course, this is just for your retirement. This doesn't count Social Security benefits. This doesn't count your insurance, for example, your the permanent insurance that Alice and Edwin were talking about. This doesn't add that. This doesn't even add pension if you have any pension from your employer. This is just what you did. Or, you know, that what you do yourself. But I want to say this, that this is very important. All of us, if you have not started, start already. Because for many of my friends here, Ghanaian friends, they say, oh, we go back and retire in Ghana and so on. If you have $500,000 or half of this, of course, if it is $250,000, you just divide everything here by 2. If it is $1 million, multiply everything here by 2 and so on. So that is what I have here. And I just put here the last column, 195,500. Yeah, sure, 195,500 is just for comparison for the mean, the average retirement account, 1,400 compared to the 3,582 that you can get from your $500,000 portfolio. All right, so I think if there are any questions, let me know, but I wanted to go through this for us to know that investing for retirement is very important. Most of us can do much better than we are doing. We think we don't make enough money, but we make enough to put $50 aside every month.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please, Alice.
Doctor, thank you so much
stop sharing.
Thank you so much for giving us the academic version and the numbers behind it. So as Doctor mentioned, to plan for retirement is one of the biggest things. And the numbers, I was also reading a different article. 2 out of 5 Americans have less than $50,000 in their retirement account. And that can be very scary. So to really approach this huge issue and knowing that people are living to 89, people are living to 90, what can you do? So there are 3 stages to the retirement planning. The first stage is the planning itself. By knowing when I retire, where do I want to be? Where will I like to stay? Will I like to move from my house to the other? So the planning piece is important. Then there's the accumulation piece, when I'm growing the money. And then there's when you are taking the money out. When you are growing the money, those in the US, there are few things we have to be cautious of. Taxes. There are certain types of an account that the government give you some tax benefit, and there are others that you don't. So during the accumulation phase, we have to be cautious of those tax favorable accounts. So what are they? I'll still stick to America for now. I'm sorry, those of us learning from other places. So in America here, they have few accounts like a 401k account. It's mostly done through your job. They allow you to put money away pre-tax. As the money is growing, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So it allows the money to grow a little bit faster. Then they have an IRA. If you are not working with an employer, you could set up your own IRA. Or if you are a small business owner, a taxi driver, a hair salon, there's something they call a SEP IRA that you can still do and put even 20% of your income away and get a tax deduction for that. And those makes importance because it makes the money grow faster. But we also have to be cautious. Those type of accounts that are giving us the tax benefit, you pay the taxes when you retire.
Sure.
And mostly you don't know what the tax rates will be. Mm-hmm. Especially with the COVID-19 that they are giving us all the stimulus packages, we have to make sure that we have some of those accounts that we could pay the taxes today. So that when we retire, we know all that money we would take will be tax-free. What are some of those accounts? So there's something they call a Roth IRA. It depends on your income. If you are single, you have to make less than 135. If you are married, it should be about 180. But you could also put some money into those accounts that will allow you to get that money tax-free when you retire. So no matter what happens, you know you have some money. If you don't qualify, people are looking into municipal bonds if you live in that municipality. And if not, that is where sometimes people are also looking into a permanent insurance. If you don't qualify for a Roth or municipal bond, is less risky. You are not taking much risk. People are looking at insurance as an alternative because for New York, for America, those also give you a tax-free income. So during the accumulation side, take control of the taxes. That could play a role. When you retire at the distribution phase, we have to be cautious. As Doctor was showing the numbers, he looked at 20 years. But as we all know, some people could live to 90. Mm-hmm. Some people could live into 100. So there's one thing we also have to look during the retirement is longevity risk. If you are being blessed to live longer than the 20 years, how do you make sure you are still not running out of money? And that is where sometimes people still leave money in the market with systematic withdrawal, but some people too put money into something they call a lifetime income annuity product. So they know that they are guaranteed a paycheck for the rest of their life, whether they live too long or not. So that takes away the longevity. And then the rest of the money could be invested. Then the last piece of retirement we mostly don't talk about is healthcare. Because people are living longer these days, that could deplete all your assets. So there should be a portion of the money allocated for long-term care. So that in case somebody needs to care for you, you don't deplete your savings, but there's money set aside. And that's why people are also using something they call long-term care planning for that. So these are the three stages I also talk about: the planning, the accumulation, and the distribution.
I think the bottom line you're saying is that, first of all, consistency is key in investment or retirement plan. Secondly, you need a financial planner. And thirdly, if everything fails, Senior Pisco is there, Alice is there, and Edwin is there to help you pro bono. Look, I'm going to try and wrap up. I know we're spending closer to 2 hours now, but I think, I don't know whether, Albert, you've been able to get Charles on to make comments. If not, I can carry on.
Yeah, I have him. He's yet to figure it. I have the pool results out, so that all of you can take a look at it, and maybe when you are winding up, you could.
Yeah, I can go through that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to try and just finish up by heading towards more our kids now. And in terms of, look, some of us are at the age where we're now having to think about, obviously, retirement, which is very, very key. We, to your point, Alice, thinking about the whole critical health plan as well. But again, in the spirit of thinking about consistency, what can we do when we start thinking about our kids and our children and so forth, in terms of making sure that we can start now, so that hopefully in the future they don't repeat some of the mistakes that we've made?
Okay, you want me to start with that?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So now again, wherever you are, I think we need to invest in our children. You brought the children to this world. So none of us should make the mistakes that our parents made. Some of them, it's not their fault. They were in a very difficult situation and they couldn't do much. But if you're here, whether you're in Ghana right now, whether in the US, UK, Europe, we need to take care of the children. So if you haven't started giving birth to children, decide on that. know that you're going to take care of them. So don't give birth to 10 children when you know you can take care of only 2 or 3. So that's the first one, because whoever you bring to this world, I believe that you have the responsibility to make sure that you take care of that child. Now, for those of us in the US and so on, for me personally, and I think it should go for all of us, wherever you are, whatever city you go to, take the school district into consideration in deciding where to live. If you can't take your kids to private school, like me, I couldn't take my kids to private school. So whenever I went to any city, I'll look for a very good public school district, because the property taxes that you pay are used to, sort of finance the school. So the school districts are very different in the United States. Some schools, your kids go there, probably they will never go to college. Some other schools, when they go there, they'll do well. They'll do much better. So choose well. And then invest in the kids. Invest in the kids, the education. Because I always say, especially to my Christian friends, the Bible says, Psalm 24, verse 1, it says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. But what it means also is that you need to partake of the fruit of the land. The land in the US here, in order to partake of the fruit of this land, most of the time, you need a good education. So I would say invest in your kids' education very well. Our generation is very difficult, right? We are taking care of ourselves. We're taking care of our children. We are taking care of our parents. So 3 levels. It's not easy. And managing this can be very stressful. But do the best with your spouse. Come together. Take care of the children. Good education. Again, we all know this, but if you're in the US here, the course that you do, it's important, right? A number of our kids say, how is it that all these Ghanaians, they want us to do medicine, engineering, IT, and so on. My friends want to do music or history, but you guys are always saying we should do this. And I always tell them that, okay, do you think it's for nothing that you see all your African friends, all your Indian friends, all your Korean and Chinese, they're all doing the courses you're talking about, whilst your American friends say they can do music or history? Because we take into consideration certain exogenous factors. When you're going to look for a job and you are our kind, if you don't have the right profession, it's more difficult for you to get a job than your American friends that you're talking about. They can do the history and still get a very good job. So we select these things for a reason. And fortunately, we have a number of the children of, like Ghanaian-born children, African-born children here who are in the IT and all these healthcare and so on, that at 21, 22, 23 are getting jobs paying pretty good money, and they can start right away. Tell your kids to start investing, because most of the parents came here late, and so they were 40 years old, they don't have anything, but your kids at 22, when they start working, they can start investing so that they will not become a burden on you. And in fact, I know many kids whose parents are Ghanaians, and the parents struggle to take care of them, that the kids now are helping, because the kids are making much more money than their parents ever made. And the kids understand that these parents sacrifice a lot. So talk to kids for them to know the situation in which you find yourself. And a lot of times, many of these kids, when they start making a lot of money, depending upon who has given them advice, they are able to acknowledge the fact that, oh, my parents really were low-income people. They helped me, they put me through school, and I'm making $75,000 right now. I'm making $90,000. I can help the parents somehow. So there are many of these things that we need to take into consideration. But I say, sit down with your family, involve even the children. Let them know your situation. This is not, we shouldn't behave like our parents behaved back home, where everything was secret. It's like, oh, but this, I'm the father. Nobody should know what I'm making and everything. I don't think this is the era. The era in which we are is an era where you bring if you are a man, bring your wife, your children, sit down at the table, discuss, financial planning on the table. This is the situation here. And if you do that, those who have done that, these things are yielding dividends. The kids will start right away investing. And they understand, and this is, I'm talking too much, but I want to seize the opportunity to say that many of the people from Ghana, they go to church here. The church should be a place where all these things are taught, in my opinion. It's not only when you go and preach or study the Bible, like, just some theoretical knowledge. We should apply that. And so we should really sit down, educate our people on all these things so that we benefit from the common knowledge that we have. But that is what I want to say. Get the kids in, give them good education. When they start working, Tell them about your culture. Tell them about the unique things that we face so that they don't behave like the American friends. We have different circumstances. We come from different backgrounds, and they need to learn and not spend money because they say, oh, my friends go on, they go on vacation every time. They do this every time. You are from a different environment. Yes, by all means, go on vacation, but make sure that you don't spend money frivolously, extravagantly. Invest some of this money. So let's teach our kids right from the beginning about investment. And if necessary, help them to open the account. Teach them to put in that money in. And they will do much better than we have done, much, much better. And that should be the case.
Excellent. Thank you. Edwin?
So if you ask me, I would just add to what Senior Pisco said. But first, when it comes to retirement piece, I'm happy that he mentioned putting money aside for your family at home, because most of us, I can say that families back at home do rely on us. So when you're planning for your retirement, don't just be thinking about yourself, because you will have those family who will, reach out when something big happens, because you're the one that is away. They will ask you, and you will be in a spot where you will have no other option but to help. And that takes away from the monies that you've decided you're going to put aside for something else, or like some form of investment. So I would say that definitely consider that as part of your retirement plan. When it does come to kids, for our kids, the first thing that I will say is thinking about the kids' plans where you can put monies into accounts for them to go ahead and save for college. And if one of you correct me, I believe that's a 529 plan. That is out there. I know that's a good way for most families to plan for their kids' college expenses. The other way that I have helped customers to be able to realize some better options for their kids is, believe it or not, a whole life insurance plan for their kids when they're babies. Because I'm going to use my son for example. I have a $250,000 life insurance plan on him, and by the time he's 18, he's going to have access to $102,000 free that he doesn't have to pay any taxes on. He doesn't have to do anything on. It's just money that's just sitting there for him because dad was paying for it, right? So that puts him in a different space than his colleagues. I mean, I wish when I was 18, I had $102,000 just sitting there waiting for me to say, Edwin, go ahead and invest with this money. I don't have to worry about my credit being pulled. I don't have to worry about about the bank coming after me. Because, if the investment doesn't go well, shoot, I have to pay this back. So I don't necessarily have to worry too much about playing it safe. I can be creative, and I can, take the risk that I need to take to be able to realize the
Thank you, Alice. Sorry.
Wow, the men have said it all. So what do I have to say? Just thank you for your time. I don't have any children yet, hoping to get one by next year. But let's begin to talk about finances at home on the dinner table. Let's talk about it because the more the children know it's not a forbidden topic, they will be open. And lastly, let's encourage our children to take careers in finance. It has been good to me. So don't run away from finance careers. Those could be very helpful as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you. And let me just look at the polls. Abel, I guess everybody can see the polls right now, is it?
Let me just pop it up.
Okay.
Poll ending, and then share results.
Okay.
Do you see them now?
Yes, I can see it now. So I guess hopefully everyone can see it. We asked 4 questions. One was really around the financial priority for year 1 of this pandemic, and we see that hopefully we've touched on the right things, because optimizing the use of what you have right now is 41%. Building up savings account, which is, I guess, both combined, is really around either saving or optimizing. So the majority is really thinking about the future, which is a good sign. And then, of course, job security is 21%, which I think we touched a little bit on that. But I think for future, we can come back and talk about not just job security in the US, but also in other parts of the world as well. Second one was really around how has the current crisis impacted you financially? Positively, 13%, 28%, negative, and neutral, 59%. The good news is that when you add in the positive and the neutral, is significant, but clearly there's a 28% that we have to also think about as well, which hopefully some of the conversation we've had around job security as well as thinking about baby steps that you can take has helped address some of those, but I'm sure there's more we can do. The third was, can you afford to work from home? Good news, close to 70% can afford to work from home. 8% not at all, which obviously is key, because this is actually thinking about not in the current situation, if you cannot afford to work from home, how do you really take care of yourself, especially in the front line? And then we've got 23% said yes, but less than half the time, right? So hopefully, Albert, one day we can come back and address this as well, in terms of measures that people can take. And last but not least, do you understand the financial assistance available for you? 28% not at all. Hopefully we helped you a little bit. I've learned quite a lot, actually, some of the tips, especially trying to start planning with the kids ASAP. Partly, 49% said partly. Hopefully we've gone through, especially in the United States, some of the things available to you. We've gone through savings, investment, what you can do in a financial planner. Hopefully we've explained to you that it doesn't cost that much to start using thinking about financial planning. And then 23% said fully. So hopefully you found this very useful. If you've got any feedback, any comments, please let us know. I've already had started getting some comments around the fact that people have found it extremely useful. And I think I can only thank, first of all, APSU. And by the way, somebody asked me what APSU means. So maybe Albert, you can actually explain what APSU means before we go. And then I can thank the panelists. Yeah.
Well, I think rather than even trying to know what APSU is, just know that we call ourselves Action and Quitting. All you got to know is that we do more work and action than talk. It's an alumni of the St. Augustine College of Cape Coast, the first Catholic school on the West Coast. And we have the motto, Umina Winkin Labor, labor conquers all. And that has been the driving force behind all our activities. And I'm very grateful that it's giving some the chance to experience our works firsthand. What is going to happen before Peter, you wrap up, is that I'm going to have this put together with a message from Mrs. Ajiman, put together. We will take off the beginning snafu, and then we'll put the whole thing on the Facebook page and on YouTube, so others can sort of watch without much of a headache of the shuttle has taken off, but we are still on the floor.
Thank you. And let me take the opportunity to thank our panelists. I think you all agree with me that it's just been fantastic. Edwin, Alice, Senior Pisco, thank you so much for such an insightful discussion all the way from job security all the way through to retirement. Really appreciate that. I must take the opportunity to also thank Albert Jan. This guy works tirelessly pro bono for everybody. This is not the only thing he's doing. He's been helping all the way through. And the more I get to know this guy, the more I just get impressed with his spirit, his dedication, and his support for the community at large. So thank you very much for that. I had to say, I'll give another shout out in the same spirit, another person who's, I think, making a big difference as well in a different field, which is Eko Fiso, who is actually in the DJ spirit on every Sunday, I think at 4 o'clock. He's also doing quite a lot for the community as well, and for the frontline people as well. So, the more we see more people like this stepping up, especially in an environment where we know is unprecedented, we're all working from home, or the majority of us are working from home, but we're also trying to help each other. I think the better, and I think you guys do a fantastic job. So I'd like to thank you. And with that, this comes to the end of it. And thanks everyone, to the participants as well, for all your good questions and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
So.